Hello and welcome back to the channel. So I'm running the Dwarfs again, up against the vile Beastmen. The list has changed a little bit, so the King is on Shield Bearers, this time with the Master Rune of Smiting for the big D6 wounds, and 3 runes of Shielding for a 4-up ward save. He's in a separate unit with 16 Ironbreakers with the Master Rune of Hesitation. I've got the same Thane BSB on Shield Bearers, Master Rune of Gromril and Preservation, and then the Master Rune of Grugny on the banner with the Rune of Courage and a Rune of Battle. 31 Rangers with the Rune of Battle, the Runesmith there, with 3 runes of Spellbreaking, 2 units of 7 Irondrakes with the Torpedo, and 1 Cannon. So I finally took the time to paint up some Irondrakes. For those of you who've been following my channel for a while, you may know that I've often remarked that they look a little bit futuristic, a bit Age of Sigmar-y, and haven't really wanted to paint up a unit, but I decided to go for it. I guess the meta chaser inside of me wanted to just put on the table one of the best units in the book, and so I've taken the time to swap the heads, sort of take off the helmets, put some 3D printed heads that I found online, just to give them a little bit of a different look and feel. They are Games Workshop models, and I do like the details on these models. I have painted up some Ironbreakers, which are essentially the same model. Lots of dry brushing metallics. I haven't actually gone over with some sort of bright gold colour on the details there. I've left them kind of dark looking. I was sort of in two minds as to whether just to keep them dark and ashy, like, you know, because they obviously have these flamethrowers in their hands. Yeah, I kind of like the way they've turned out, so I'm still in two minds whether I'm going to go back over them with some bright coloured gold just to pick out some of the details. I kind of like the way they look at the moment, so for now anyway they're staying like this. Gone for the sort of 7-man sticks of Irondrakes. They're more than just a speed bump, of course, right? They're toughness 4, they got a 4-up save, they reroll 1s as well on their saving throw, and they're stubborn, right? So it's hard to chew through a whole unit, even with a very sort of medium-sized unit charging into them. With the stand and shoot as well, they're likely to survive enough to use their stubborn, fall back in good order, and so, you know, and it's still only, I think, 7 troops with a champion with the torpedo is still only 126 points, if I remember correctly. I think a big unit is also viable, but then obviously that would mean, you know, painting up loads more Irondrakes, and I don't think they quite look good as a big unit. I think they'd look better as a small elite unit, and if I'm going to paint up a big unit, I may as well just paint up another unit of Rangers, right? Because well, I just think Rangers are the best unit in the book. But the champion with the torpedo, the champion being Ballistic Skill 5 with what is essentially a cannon, is just too good to pass up. So hoping to put a couple of torpedoes on the table and see how we go with the Irondrakes. The Beastmen are led by a Doom Bull. I think he's running hand, weapon and shield. He's got the blackened plate, which is, I think, just full plate armour. Gnarled hide, which is an extra pip of armour. Gouged tusks for more armour penetration. And so, yeah, I think he's got a 2-up save, shed load of attacks. Bit scary, but I think the King can take him, obviously doing the multi-wounds D6. Interested to see whether or not he runs the Doom Bowl in the unit of Minotaurs or not. So there's a unit of 3 Minotaurs there, and also a unit of 3 Dragon Ogres. He's got a level 4 Bray Shaman on Tuskor Chariot with the Hag Tree Fetish and the Ruby Ring. He's on Elementalism and rolled up Summon Elemental Spirits, Travical Mystical Pathways, Earthen Ramparts, which was a surprise because he's got a fast-moving attacking army, and obviously Earthen Ramparts doesn't let you charge. And of course the Vile Tide. 37 Gore with extra hand weapons, 2 units of 5 Warhounds, now a Razor Gore Chariot, Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, and a Gorgon. So deployment, as you can see in the pictures, the beast's all fairly central, which I'm thankful for actually, because I don't want lots of fast-moving units coming around my flanks and me having to fight the beasts on many fronts. I guess making the most of sort of target saturation for my shooting, and of course the general's leadership bubble, so by staying close together. The Doom Bull goes in the big block of Gore, leadership 10 now from the Warband rule. Also mean he doesn't get a lookout for the cannonballs, but then again, you know, cannons are pretty rubbish now, and there's plenty of other targets to shoot, so I don't think he'll be too worried about the Doom Ball getting into combat. They start off in the woods. The Shaman with Viletide is behind their lines, which makes it obviously harder for me to shoot at the Shaman on the chariot, but also harder to get the Viletide into range, right? Because it's only range 15, so that's fine for now. Otherwise, I've just got lots of monsters running at me at full pelt, and not that much shooting to take them out before they get to me, but we'll see how we go. The Dwarf deployment, as you can see in the pictures, got my stubborn Ironbreakers with the King on the hill, flanked with the stubborn Irondrakes, and quite solid in the centre there, hoping to take the charge and hold the hill, but we'll see. The King will scare the beasts, I think, because he's got lots of multi-wound monsters, and obviously hesitation on the Ironbreakers means the chariots charging the front won't do any impact hits. The line is sort of in reserve on my right there. I've already discovered, if you saw my last battle rep, one weakness of the line of Rangers, right, which is the ethereal unit soaking up all my attacks. The Beastmen don't have that, so we'll see what they've got to offer. I'm mostly worried about them getting into the flank of the line, right? Because obviously beasts have access to fast units and ambushers, which is not the case here. So will he try to fight it head on? I suppose it all depends if my King with the Ironbreakers can hold that hill. If not, then I'm going to have monsters sweeping round the left of the line, and I'm going to have to change the angle. And obviously, I'm not expecting the line to lose combat, but obviously it is dangerously close to the back of the board and might be able to fall back in good order once or give ground a couple of times, and then it will be dangerously close. The Gorgon also has Killing Blow, which is a bit of a worry. I don't have the Rune of Preservation on the King. The Gorgon's also not a character, right? So I can't challenge it out with the unit champion. So I don't want the Gorgon and the King to meet, even though the King with the Rune of Smiting would make short work of the Gorgon. But that all depends if he can survive the Gorgon's attacks first. So turn one, the beasts get first turn, and it goes exactly as you would imagine it to go. So they run at me full pelt. They throw an Elemental Spirits template into the mix. The Dragon Ogres are left, as you can see in the pictures there, sort of in front of the Shaman and the Shaggoth, protecting them. They've got 4 wounds each, right? So the cannon can't actually kill a Dragon Ogre in one shot because it's only got D3 wounds. So the Dragon Ogres are good protection from cannons. I mean, cannons are a bit sad, to be honest. They should be, in my opinion, they should be like 70, 75 points at the most. 100 points, I mean, they're just not worth it. Unless you take a load, I suppose, and make it part of your core strategy. Anyway, Dwarfs turn 1. We take out the dogs on the right side with the Rangers, and then we take out 3 out of 5 dogs on the left with the Irondrakes, and that's it really. Everything else is just able to weather the storm. So we move on to turn 2. So Beastmen turn 2, and they're running at me full pelt, and it's looking pretty ominous. And this is the point. This is the bit where Warhammer just looks beautiful, when you see the 2 battle lines like that, and you can see how they're about to clash, and it's about to be a monumental fight. The dogs park themselves, the remaining dogs park themselves in front of my King's unit. Viletide's still not in range, right? Although one Irondrake dies to a fireball, and we move on to Dwarfs turn 2. So it's a key round of shooting for me now, because I've got quite a bit of short range shooting to do, and then everything will be in combat by turn 3, right? So the King's unit charges with the dogs in front of them, with the aim of overrunning into the Dragon Ogres, if they've got the legs for it. Don't know what I've got to roll at this stage, but it doesn't look too far to overrun into those Dragon Ogres. The Irondrakes and the Rangers shoot at the Gorgon and take 5 wounds off it. Now this is great for me because it's on 1 wound remaining. I got a good spike from the torpedo there. It's still facing my King, but hopefully I can avoid the Gorgon doing too much damage. 1 wound off the Shaggoth from the Irondrakes, 1 wound off the Razorgore Chariot from the cannon. Yeah, fairly pleased with that round of shooting. It's just neutering that, well, not really neutering, but taking that Gorgon down to 1 wound will mean that it's not really usable. Either he has to throw it away by chucking it into a combat where it's likely to die, or hide with the Gorgon, and you can't really hide because it's a large target and I've got shooting, right? So it means it's likely just to charge in with a last Hail Mary on turn 3. Beastmen turn 3, and here come the charges. So the Shaggoth and the Razorgore chariot on the left side go into the Irondrakes. We take out the chariot with the stand and shoot, got some good rolling there. But, you know, the Shaggoth makes it into combat, and the Shaggoth doesn't really need the impact hits to do the business, so the Irondrakes are in trouble. The Gorgon does charge in the flank of the Ironbreakers, who are already in combat with the Dragon Ogres. He's in base-to-base with the King, but I'm hoping to get that King into a challenge to escape that Gorgon attacks. The Gore bus charges the Irondrakes, who flee behind the Dwarf lines. Now that worked out perfectly for me, because the Irondrakes don't go off the board. They're behind my lines, ready to rally on next turn, and then the Gore fail their charge and just shuffle forward. The Brave Shaman throws a Vile Tide at the cannon, and only does 2 wounds. Horrendous rolling from Mark there, unable to take the last wound of the cannon, and then miraculously he fires a fireball at the cannon, wounds, but then the light armour of the cannon crew save them, and the cannon is still left on 1 wound at the end, and maybe they can fire another cannon shot. So in combat we lose 4 Ironbreakers only to the Dragon Ogres and the Gorgon, so, you know, rolling well on the armour saves there. The King escapes into a challenge with the Dragon Ogre champion, avoiding the killing blow threat and maxing the overkill on the Dragon Ogre with the d6 wounds. The Gorgon falls back in good order, the Ogres give ground, and the Ironbreakers follow up into combat with those Dragon Ogres. Meanwhile, the Shaggoth decimates the Irondrakes on the left, who pop their stubborn and fall back in good order. Dwarfs turn 3, so the Irondrakes rally and then step up onto the hill and blast the last wound from that Gorgon, so great result there. The Rangers shoot off a couple of the Minotaurs, and the King sort of continues his rampage up the middle of the table there. They lose another 3 Ironbreakers to the Dragon Ogres, but then winning combat again, taking out another beast, and continuing to follow up and try and kill this last Dragon Ogre. The Shaggoth finishes the Irondrakes and then turns to face the King and his combat with the Dragon Ogres. Turn 4, so it's looking good for the Dwarfs at this stage. The Gore are yet to make it into combat after 3 turns, and they're facing down my line of Rangers there with the Thane. The Shaggoth is on the loose on the left flank, but it's yet to get into either of my main units, and the nearest unit there are another unit of Irondrakes, which are yet to pop their stubborn, so I'm hoping just to keep that Shaggoth busy and for it to not do too much damage for the rest of the game. In the Beast turn 4 then, the Shaggoth is facing the King's unit but fails the charge. The Doomball leads the big charge into the Rangers with the Gore. The stand and shoot takes out several Gore. We lose around 7 to 8 Rangers in the massive onslaught of Gore with all their dozens of attacks, but we take out lots of Gore in return with our great weapons. I think the ward saves from Grugny and the stand and shoot obviously making the difference, and the Gore lose combat and fall back in good order. We choose not to follow up, of course, because it's our turn next and we can shoot them again. And the last Minotaur is cut down in the fray as well. Meanwhile, the King finishes off the remaining Dragon Ogre in the middle there, and the plucky cannon crew who have survived so much magic missiles up until now are blasted off with the remaining fireball. And then, as you can imagine, on Dwarfs turn 4, there's another round of shooting by the Rangers at the Gore, thinning out the ranks some more. The torpedo, remaining torpedo there, takes off another wound from the Shaggoth, and the King, with his unit, who finished that remaining Dragon Ogre, just march towards the Doomball's unit, seeing if they can make a difference if they make it into combat by turn 6. Turn 5 then for the Beasts. The Shaggoth is caught, really, outmanoeuvred here because it's failed to charge into the King's unit. It's not really facing the right way, so it just tries to face the right direction, really, to take some points. But it abandons trying to chase down the King. Meanwhile, the Ironbreakers are out in the open, and Vile Tide takes out like 7 of them, which is a bit scary because there's not many left and the King is a bit exposed there, so hopefully that unit won't completely succumb to Vile Tide on the last turn. The Gore charge again, and this time they lose heavily. They don't have any Minotaurs supporting them. All of those great weapon attacks are going into the Gore, and they find themselves outnumbered and then fleeing and getting cut down by the line of Rangers. On Dwarf turn 5, I basically just move the King and the Runesmith towards each other, because basically I want to get my runesmith closer to the Bray Shaman so he can't vile tide the king without me being able to play my rune of spellbreaking. And that kind of closes out the game really. Turn 6, the Shaggoth cleans up the remaining Irondrakes. Yeah, at the end of the game, the Shaggoth and the Shaman are alive on the Beastman side. There's a few Ironbreakers left alive on the Dwarf side. Obviously, my line of Rangers is still alive. And all I've lost really is my Cannon and my Irondrakes. And those Irondrakes units are not even worth that many points, to be honest. They're really an MVP. Yeah, let's do a little debrief now. So that was a fast-paced, action-packed game. Everything went to plan for the Dwarfs, really. The king wasn't killing blowed, so, I didn't miss the Rune of Preservation. The Doomball was scary, but, obviously I was able to just chop up Gore instead of attacking the Doomball directly, and then just get him to break. So it kind of worked out well for me that he was in the Gore unit, because even though that is quite a scary proposition, charging my line of Rangers is also pretty scary. So perhaps a mistake from Mark's side to keep the Shaman back, because he didn't really engage Viletide until sort of turn 3, and by that time most things were in combat. Perhaps marching up the Chariot on the first turn, but then again maybe that would have given me a chance to shoot at the Chariot, so it's hard to say really with hindsight. I think the decision on my part not to take War Machines was perhaps a good one. Obviously I took the one cannon. Shooting is good versus Beastmen, but just War Machines are just weak, and they give away points easily, and I think just taking Irondrakes is the way forward, and close combat units. I didn't miss the Gyrocopters either. I didn't feel like I needed to chaff up any of these monsters to prevent them from getting into combat, because I was kind of able to hold my own once they got there anyway. The Irondrakes were excellent. They hold their ground well. It's hard to kill all 7 in one go. I like my unit of 7. I might just make a third unit of 7, to be honest. And often they get away, because they've got stubborn, and they can flee and then all pop their stubborn if they lose combat and sort of get away. The line of Rangers did the business again. Thane didn't lose a single wound. King likewise. Wasn't really challenged. I think just the combination of runes I had was just good for this matchup, obviously. It could have all gone wrong if they'd got a killing blow off on the king, but he has a 4-up board anyway, so perhaps the Rune of Smiting can work going forward, although I kind of need to face a dragon list really to test what would be best for the king. I think I'm going to, defensive might be the way to go. I think I'm going to keep trying different rune combos for the king and seeing what works, and then maybe I'll settle on something I can take to an event. The Runesmith in the Rangers unit I don't think is essential. The 18-inch range on the Dispel is just not good enough really, especially if you're playing defensively. If you deploy your unit quite deep, that 18-inch range... Obviously, the must Dispel things happen when they're close, right? When it's the buffs just before they get into combat, so... 18-inch isn't that bad, but it just, I don't know, maybe just the games I've played so far, it hasn't been good. I'll have a go. I want to play the Anvil of Doom for a bit, go back to the Runesmith, maybe try playing both, but it's hard to fit in, points-wise, it's hard to fit in a King, a Thane, an Anvil and a Runesmith. Because you have to compromise on the runes in order to get them all in at 2,000 points, but yeah, I'm going to alternate between the Runesmith and the Anvil. Because I want to keep the King and the Thane both on shield bearers. I want to keep that in my list for now anyway. But yeah, happy with the first win with the Dwarves, driving back the vile beasts into the jungle. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you watched this far, don't forget to give us hit the like button, leave a comment, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.